57 degrees in downtown Sylacauga on a Friday morning. This is the 18th day of March. We're joined this morning by David Latimer. David is a candidate for Talladega County Sheriff. And David, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Jim.
Good to have you with us this morning. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a former veteran, U.S. Air Force, and in the Air National Guard. I've attended the FBI National Academy in 2011 in Quantico, Virginia. I was Director of Public Safety and Chief of Police for about 8 years. I've been married for 44, almost 45 years. So that's kind of I guess the Reader's Digest condensed version of David Latimer.
All right, let's talk about your law enforcement experience. Okay. What do you bring to the table for people to consider for you candidate for sheriff, Talladega County?
I bring a very proactive approach to law enforcement. I believe in getting out in the community and getting involved, getting to know people. Sitting in an office in the courthouse is not going to get the job done. So I'm going to be out there talking to people. I'm going to be out there interviewing, trying to prevent crime. In order to do that, you got to get to know the community. You got to talk to people, interview them, figure out what's going on. Sitting in the office ain't going to get it done.
I understand you're going to have a gathering over in Childersburg, what, Saturday? That's
right. That's right. At the Chevron at the intersection of 280 and Old Sylacauga Highway.
Yeah.
We're going to be selling crawfish.
Is it out there at Center Point Acres?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
What time is it going to be?
We should have everything ready to go about 11, somewhere in there.
Okay.
A guy named Big Man, Kenneth Smith. A lot of people remember him from his restaurant in Harpersville.
Yeah, I've eaten that restaurant before.
Well, he's the guy that's cooking them. He knows how to cook crawfish.
You've got ties with the law enforcement in Harpersville, right?
I was police chief in Harpersville and director of public safety for almost 8 years.
Yeah. So how have things changed since you were the police chief in Harpersville as to wanting to become the sheriff of Talladega County?
Well, I had a lot of people who continued to ask me about this. And frankly, I was reluctant at first. But after a lot of thought and quite a bit of prayer, I could either sit at home and draw my retirement check, or I could
do that.
I could do that. Yeah. Or I could do something. I could sit at home and complain, or get out and make a difference. Mm. I decided I wanted to be involved.
What are some challenges that law enforcement is facing, and some challenges that Talladega County specifically is facing?
One of the biggest challenges, I think, right now that law enforcement faces is perception. There's a perception of law enforcement as being too hard on some people and not helpful enough. And I think the reason for that is we don't get out and get involved and talk to people enough. You can't be a law enforcement officer if you're not involved with your community. You got to get out in the community. You got to go to churches. You got to go to ball games. You got to get out and stop cars and talk to people, find out what they're up to. You got to be accessible. If somebody calls you, you got to call them back. If somebody wants to meet with you, you need to meet with them and talk to them. Find out what their issues are and try to help them.
What would you say to people who may say, well, that's easy to say. You're running for the sheriff's office. You're running to be the chief officer of the sheriff of Talladega County. But would you be involved in the community if you're elected as sheriff?
I'd absolutely be involved in the community just like I was in Harpersville. I would be out in the community. I'm not going to be secreted somewhere in an office. And even if you are just doing what you're supposed to do, you never bother anybody, you're probably still going to see me. But if you're doing things you ain't got no business, you're going to see me a lot.
Talladega County is, of course, looking for law enforcement officers just like everybody is in the state of Alabama and across the nation. Why would somebody want to be in law enforcement to begin with?
Well, I guess it's a calling. My son is in law enforcement, and frankly, I had mixed emotions about him becoming a cop. But he's a good one, and it's just something that's a part of your psyche. You want to help people. You want to be involved in the community. You want to make things better. And I can think of no better means of helping people and improving a community than being in law enforcement and getting out there doing your job.
And it's not for everybody.
It is not for everybody. That's exactly right. But those that, people who are called to do it and people that are good at it, we need you.
How would you, if elected sheriff, how would you recruit prospective law enforcement agents to join the Talladega County Sheriff's Office?
Well, I've already had a lot of people contact me about becoming a part of the Talladega County Sheriff's Office if I'm elected. Mm-hmm. I've worked with and known a lot of people over the years, some of them at the FBI Academy and others through contacts working, doing investigations. So I don't think recruitment's going to be an issue. We will have a lot of people who want to become a part of our organization.
Just yesterday, there was a car chase that happened. I think it started maybe in Harpersville and came down 280 and ended up outside of Sylacauga. There are a lot of issues that law enforcement agencies have to deal with, including drugs.
That's right.
Including domestic violence, and including some people they don't want to stop for law enforcement. There's not a whole lot of respect it sometimes.
Right. That's right. And but you mentioned drugs, Jimmy. That's a big problem. And domestic violence, most of the issues that we have to deal with in law enforcement can be traced back to some form of substance abuse, drugs, alcohol. And sometimes people legitimately don't want to stop for law enforcement because they're scared. Now that's partly on us. We need to do a better job of informing people of what we do, and we're not out to hurt anybody. All we want to do is protect the people who are trying to do what's right.
We're talking with David Latimer, candidate for sheriff of Talladega County. Now, exactly when is the primary, and update everybody on when they need to go vote?
Well, the primary is May 24th, and that's the first big hurdle that I need to get past. So I need for everybody get out and vote in the Republican primary May 24th.
And honesty, integrity, and commitment is what you are showcasing as to your candidacy for Talladega County Sheriff in the May primary. Now, where do you live now? What area of Talladega County do you live now?
City of Lincoln.
Okay, all right. And you want to work to reduce crime, and reducing crime can be done several ways. What are some of the ideas you've got?
Well, the biggest idea is, once again, to reiterate, being proactive. Knowing what's going on in the community is the very best way to prevent crime. You've got to get out and talk to people. I can't say that too many times. You can't do it from sitting in an office in Talladega. You have to get out and talk to people.
You're willing to invest yourself personally,
absolutely,
if elected sheriff.
Absolutely. I think training, most problems that can be identified in a law enforcement agency relate back to training or the lack of it. And I'm going to take $10,000 out of my salary to make sure that we obtain first high quality training, and lots of it, in the Talladega County Sheriff's Office.
Equipment has always been an issue, whether it's Talladega County or Jefferson County, Mobile County. Wherever you are, is always equipment issues. How would you address that?
Well, there's a lot of resources out there, grants through ADECA, through the federal government. There's a lot of resources that we can get to help with that.
One thing that we have seen time and time again across our nation is cold cases that have sat and sat and sat and sat.
That's right.
And we've seen some of them come back up after 30 or 40 years.
And get resolved.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I'm going to do very, very soon if I'm elected is create a cold case task force. I've been contacted by several retired law enforcement professionals around Talladega County who have volunteered to participate in that cold case task force. We're going to try to get some of these families of those victims answers. We're going to start that very quickly after I'm elected.
You are in the Republican primary. You're going against an incumbent.
That's right.
And your thoughts as far as challenging an incumbent who's been there several terms, and what you feel you can do better.
Well, let me say, first of all, I don't have anything against Jimmy Kilgore, and I'm not running against Jimmy Kilgore. I'm running for sheriff. I'm not going to start slinging mud. I just don't believe that's the way to do it. You can't throw mud without getting some on you. Now, I'll tell you what I will do, but as far as getting into a combative back and forth with an incumbent, I'm not going to do it.
We're always looking for upgrades, whether it's vehicles, whether it's cameras, or whether it's vests, and we talk about how we're going to do that. Will you hit the ground running if elected sheriff as to getting some of these things done?
Absolutely. I'll continue the process that I had going at Harpersville. I know the resources, I know the people to contact, and on day one, I'll start contacting them and we'll start making a difference.
Now, I'm just going to be very open here. Harpersville has for years been known as one of the speed traps in Alabama.
Right.
And a lot of people think, well, you know, and there was some stuff happened several years ago that brought Harpersville into the spotlight, and not in a good way.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I was there for a part of that. But the problems that were at Harpersville were related to the court, the judicial system. They had nothing to do with law enforcement. In fact, I was instrumental in having that court closed because of the issues that arose with it.
Wow. David Latimer, candidate for Sheriff, Talladega County in the Republican primary coming up in May. Very quickly, David, why should people vote for you in that Republican primary for Sheriff?
Because I'll make a difference. I'm experienced, I'm trained, I can make a difference as your sheriff if you'll give me a chance.
All right, David Latimer, thanks for coming this morning.
You're welcome.
David Latimer, candidate for Talladega County Sheriff in the Republican primary coming up in May. And how can people get in touch with you? I didn't mention that. How can they contact you?
You can call me, 538-0279, or Facebook page, Latimer, elect David Latimer for sheriff.
All right, more Daybreak coming up right after this.